stereotypes of American people can today be found in virtually all cultures. They often manifest in America's own television and in the media's portrayal of America as seen in other countries, but can also be spread by literature, art and public opinion. Not all of the listed stereotypes are equally popular, nor are they all restricted towards Americans. And although most can be considered negative, there are a few that actually assign neutral, positive or even admiring qualities to the stereotypical U.S. citizen. Many of the ethnic stereotypes collide with otherwise unrelated political anti-Americanism. Positive stereotypes equals generosity equals, according to William Bennett, a positive stereotype of Americans is that they are very generous. The United States sends aid and supplies to many countries, and Americans may be seen as people who are charitable or volunteer. De Tocqueville first noted, in 1835, the American attitude towards helping others in need. A 2010 Charities Aid Foundation study found that Americans were the fifth most willing to donate time and money in the world at 55%. Total charitable contributions are higher in the U.S. than in any other country, and Americans are seen as compassionate by international observation, as well as self-identification. The belief that the ingrained compassion yields the charitable acts is in congruence with the numbers that show the bulk of charitable giving goes to religious organizations. Optimism equals, Americans are seen as very positive and optimistic people. Optimism is seen as the driving force behind achievement of the American dream. Europeans believe themselves to be more down-to-earth realists, and view optimism as foolishness. Hardworking equals, Americans are stereotyped as hardworking people, whether in their jobs or other matters. Negative stereotypes equals materialism, overconsumption and extreme capitalism equals, perhaps the most popular stereotype of Americans is that of economic materialism. They may be seen as caring about nothing but money, judging everything by its economic value, and scorning those of lower socio-economic status. Lack of education, tendency of ignorance and gullibility equals, Americans may be stereotyped as ignorant of all countries and cultures beyond their own. This stereotype shows them as lacking intellectual curiosity, thus making them ignorant of other cultures, places, or anything outside of their own lives or the United States. The idea of American students dumbing down is attributed to the declining standards of American schools and curricula. Racism and racialism equals, American people in general may be portrayed as racist or racialist, often discriminating against their minorities. Racism was a significant issue of American history and is still relevant today. According to Albert Einstein, racism is America unregistered trademark SA a worse disease America is argued to be a E. coli blind society, but the extent of discrimination and prejudice among Americans is still controversial. Gun-loving, violent culture equals, Americans have a long historical fondness for guns and this is often portrayed by American media. A considerable percentage of Americans own firearms. The United States now has some of the highest death rates caused by firearms in the developed world. The international media often report American mass shootings, making these incidents well known internationally despite the fact that these kind of killings account for an extremely small portion of the firearms death rate. The United States is ranked number 1 with a gun ownership rate of 88.8 guns per 100 residents. Environmental and consciousness equals, Americans may be seen as reckless and imprudent people when it comes to the environment. They may be portrayed as lavish, driving high-polluting SUVs and unconcerned about climate change or global warming. The United States has the second highest carbon dioxide emissions after China, and is one of the few countries which did not ratify the Kyoto Protocol. In the context of stereotyping, it is perhaps more relevant to look at CO2 production per capita. The USA compares favorably with oil-producing nations in the Middle East, with Qatar at 40.3 metric tons per capita versus the United States' 17.6 metric tons per capita, but not with most European countries. Germany, for instance, emits only 9.1 metric tons per capita. Arrogance and boastfulness equals. Some people see Americans as arrogant people, Americans may be seen by people of other countries as arrogant and egomaniacal. U.S. President Barack Obama has said that America has shown arrogance, been dismissive and even derisive. Unwarranted military intervention equals. Another stereotype is that Americans want to be the world's policemen, believing that the entire world needs their help, even if it means military intervention and civilian casualties. This relatively recent stereotype spawned from Cold War and post-Cold War military interventions such as the Vietnam War and Iraq War, which many people opposed. Consequences of American stereotypes. Along with many stereotypes, nations view the United States as one of the most powerful nations in the world. However, this view is partnered with the view that the United States is corrupt, arrogant, cold and bloodthirsty. Whether speaking about the United States unregistered trademark government or the national unregistered trademark as people as a whole, these views seem to stand even though these views are not exhaustively shared by the whole world. Peter Glick, co-author of OE Anti-American Sentiment and America's Perceived Intent to Dominate, an 11-nation study, conducted research on 5,000 college students from 11 different nations using the stereotype content model and the image theory measure. OE consistent with the SCM and IT measure was the view that the United States is a nation intent on domination, also with predicted perceptions that the nation is lacking warmth, and that the nation is arrogant, but out of incompetence. As a result of similar views, anti-American sentiment can develop, and the United States unregistered trademark security can be put at risk. For example, one of the most infamous anti-American acts against the United States was the 9/11 attacks. American stereotypes were not the main proponent of these attacks, but stereotypes become self-fulfilling and normative. If America is seen as arrogant, power-hungry, intrusive, etc., then it is perceived that most American individuals exhibit this behavior, at least to some degree, and that the nation as a whole involves itself in situations in which it may have no business interfering. Common myths. People are often influenced by what they see in movies. Some Americans believe that all French people smoke and dress fashionably or that all Arabs are terrorists, and some tourists believe when they come to Texas, everyone will be riding a horse. Some myths emboldened by movies are as follows. Everyone is middle class and wants to live in the suburbs. The OE American dream is embodied by that of owning a two-story house, with a green lawn and a white picket fence. The reality is more people are moving out of the suburbs to be closer to jobs, commerce, and entertainment. Everyone carries a gun. People reporting ownership of firearms is declining. However, flaws in studies may lead to fewer people making ownership of firearms known. New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago are very dangerous. American metropoles were dangerous once upon a time, but now they are far down the list with a sizable gap between them and the most violent city in the U.S., with Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and other densely populated cities far below. When major cities across the globe are sorted by their murder rate, the highest-ranked U.S. city is St. Louis at number 19, followed by Detroit at number 22. See also, American imperialism, Americanization, Americentrism, anti-Americanism, American studies, climate change in the United States, creation evolution controversy in the United States, culture of the United States, global warming controversy in the United States, media bias in the United States, propaganda in the United States, ugly American. References